You're the head of investments of Maelstrom Fund. For people who don't know Maelstrom, right, like they're probably living under a rock, but it's the family fund of Arthur Hayes. He was also the founder of BitMEX, and you're also the VP of Strategic Finance there, right?
I was in a acapella group called Pen Masala. It was, like a Indian American music group that blended Western and Indian music. The acapella group has been around for now over 2 decades. I was in it for 4 years. I was eventually, when I was a senior, I became a music director. So I was like arranging the music and singing, like pretty interesting mashups.
Do you want to sing 2 lines for us?
I would, but my throat's a little fucked from the last couple nights. But yeah.
Who is Akshat and what's his story?
Yeah. So my background's kind of, I guess, not too dissimilar to others in the space. Started off in management consulting after Wharton. Kind of did like projects for Fortune 10, Fortune 20 type clients around the world. And then a lot of that ended up being M&A stuff. Mm-hmm. So then I moved from that to the private equity space to like get involved with deal making directly. But the part of private equity I was working in was the lower middle market, which resembles crypto quite a bit. It's, deal processes are chaotic, companies are small. There's like a lot of quirks around the founders, things like that. So I kind of built a lot of space. I guess a lot of I'd say experience in the space that looks similar to crypto, and then ended up making the jump to crypto in 2019 to work for BitMEX.
Sure. And let's talk about like life pre-crypto and like professional work as well, right? Yeah. Like how was that growing up and like
whole life, yes.
The entire thing.
Okay, my whole life, okay. So yeah, that's more interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in Austin, Texas.
Right.
That's my hometown, and family moved there in 1998. We're immigrants originally from India. Mm-hmm. I was born in the UK, so my parents kind of bounced around a few places along the way, the journey to the US. Right. Settled down in Austin, Texas. And I went to university in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So that was University of Pennsylvania, Wharton. That was kind of like, I guess, where I transitioned from small town. At that time, Austin was like maybe the 50th largest city in the US. So it was like nothing, right? When I was growing up. Transitioning from like small town vibes to Penn and the Ivy world and the Northeast, it was a big transition. So I'd say like that was one of the most important probably decisions I made in my life that forked how my life could have played out.
So growing up, were you like always interested or like inclined towards finance or like economics?
Not at all.
Not at all? How did that happen then?
So I was a lot more, my biggest thing was music as a kid. I played some instruments, the tabla, the Indian drums, oboe. That was like my main thing. Mm-hmm. And all throughout middle school and high school, spent like probably 20 hours a week outside of school just practicing and honing my oboe skills. Music was the biggest thing I was drawn to. The second area was that I always told myself, in high school when people asked me, what do you want to be? It was an international journalist. Okay. Like I wanted to be a correspondent on the ground. In like crazy countries and just telling cool stories and meeting people. Yeah,
but you then went on to do like business from Wharton, right? So what was that like?
Yeah, so that was I originally had applied to Penn in this program that was like joint business and IR, international relations, called the Huntsman program. It's a great program. They only accept like 30 people a year, and I was not one of those 30. I was rejected from that, but then they offered me Wharton alone, and kind of like, in the end, I just made the call that would be a good way for me to complement my existing interests and skills, that I don't have this like economics, finance bent. So I'd like to learn it, see what all the hype's about. So I gave it a shot.
Good. After that, you were like a private equity associate at Granite Greek Capital, right? Yeah. And there you were mostly like working on like due diligence and like different mergers and acquisitions. So what was that like?
Yeah. So then, so I did Wharton, and I lived in New York for a bit doing consulting, and then I was at a private equity firm, Granite Greek Capital Partners. That was interesting. That was like mostly buyouts and growth equity deals across all kinds of industries, just like niche, strange industries like manufacturing caps for bottles, or like like veterinary lab roll-ups and things like that. Right. So the playbook for private equity is kind of standard, but it especially in the bigger deals, but it gets way more interesting as you go down in terms of market cap. The smaller deals are way more fun, way more interesting. There's a lot of like price dislocation. There's information asymmetry. there's broken auctions. So it's kind of more like the Wild West of private equity. And that's where I was focused.
Sounds like crypto.
Yeah, honestly, quite similar. Yeah.
So how did you find crypto? How did you come across crypto?
So my friend, Bala, who I owe a lot, we grew up together since third grade. We've been like in the same classes at school. He sent me this article in 2013 when we were graduating from college. I think it was like Salon or Slate about Bitcoin. And, we started just reading about it together and learning about it. And I started buying into it then, with the very little savings I had. I was $50,000 in debt because of student loans. My net worth was negative, but I was so intrigued by this concept. I was like, well, I'd rather just like take some punts on this and see what happens. And funny, Bala now also works in this industry. He's he's at Fidelity's VC.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, that's how I started getting into it. So learning about it. I bought in at the peak at like $1,100 or so, and then it crashed to like $200, $300 for a couple of years. I was like, oh fuck, I got scammed. Right. And then smart contracts became a thing in 2016, 17. That's when I started getting back into it as a hobbyist. Like, wait, this is much more than a glorified meme coin, which is what I thought of Bitcoin at the time when I felt like I'd been rugged. But I started reading more about it, learning about it. Started buying into Ethereum around that time. At some point, the dissonance between what I was doing professionally full time and what I was looking at in my free time was too wide, and so I started applying to jobs in the space around 2018, 2019. Right. Like Consensus Ventures and BitMEX Ventures. Those are kind of the shops of that time that were prominent, and got the job with BitMEX.
Right. And so you were always drawn towards like venture capital because you mentioned like you applied at like 2-3 of these venture shops only.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I think it lends itself to my skill set. The private equity background, just like deal making in private markets versus the more hedge fund approach. So I never looked at liquid funds.